million worth of loans that's been given out. And then what is most interesting, you know how many people do their work, juakali, you went to be trained, you never really got a certificate, you're a mechanic, but you don't have your paperwork, so you don't qualify for this other job. KCB can fix that. You know how they fix it? They train you so that you are accredited by the national agency in charge of accrediting such things, and they do it in various fields and places, such as hairstyling, all the way to being a mechanic, plumbing, etc. You go for training, and after you do that training, your vocational training, they will help you out with giving you a training on business. So let's talk about accounting, branding, how to present yourselves, and things like that actually help your brand work. And then after that, they will still give you a loan after incubating you. In other words, they'll give you all the training, mentorship you need so that now you are able to actually hit the ground running with your business. So KCB to Jiajiri program is what you need to look out for, and you need to go to KCB Group/Foundation for more information.
There you go. And so, CT, you've been telling us about DTB and how they've made sure that, mortgages, everybody can get a mortgage. No?
Actually, everyone who wants a mortgage can understand how best to get a mortgage from Diamond Trust Bank. You see, the idea that mortgages are beyond the reach of most people is at best not true. Now, the only way you can determine the veracity of what I'm saying is simple, really. One, you will listen to what I'm saying, and then after that, you can verify it. And what I'm saying is this: Diamond Trust Bank says, we have a product for you. We want to offer you a mortgage, and we can offer you that mortgage at 9% or at 9.75%. Why the difference? Well, if you want a mortgage for 10 years, it'll be 9%. If it's more than 25 years, if it's 25 years, then it's 9.75. But before you even get to these figures and amounts, there's need for you to do away with your fear and find out what it is that you're able to. Don't let your financial situation determine that process for you. Come and talk to us, then we'll see what can work out.
Okay.
Diamond Trust Bank is able to help you solve that mortgage problem that you've had. No hidden charges, no extra costs, no penalties for early payment. Email mortgages@dtbafrica.com or visit the nearest Diamond Trust Bank outlet near you.
There you go. And even as you do, you can remember that you can take a sipper from your cuppa this morning, and all of these great flavors in Delamere's classic yogurt. I've got the pear caramel this morning, and this was my on-the-go breakfast that I had. And you can think about that through Friday and into the weekend, where you're going to take a stop and say, okay, well, I need a snack, and there's your snack in great flavors with real fruit, strawberry, and there's the pear and caramel, there is the orange and honey, there is choco chip, all sorts of great stuff for that moment with Delamere. Real pieces of real fruit and other ingredients in your classic yogurt from Delamere. We're getting into a diaspora conversation this hour, and even as we do, our guest is here, and we're glad that she's here today. We would have liked to have her before, but all the same, she's here today. Comfort Monoru Mwangi is a political commentator, and she's here, and we're talking about Kenyan diaspora view of their country of birth. Comfort, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Karibu, Sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for being here. You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yeah, it feels hot.
Already?
Yeah.
Wait till you hear the questions. But before we get there, let's welcome you to the Situation Room with today's proverb. CT has proverbs that he gets from different African countries every week. We're getting round to the last day of the one for this week. So he'll tell us what that is. You give us your interpretation of the same. We're putting you to work already. Does that sound fair enough?
Okay.
All right.
We do not kill a dog because of its barking.
Okay. We don't kill a dog because... We don't... Say that again?
We do not kill a dog because of its barking.
Yeah, because probably that is also protection.
Yes.
It's protecting us.
Yes.
And that is its value. The barking. Don't go kill it.
So what do you think that means?
It means you be tolerant. Be tolerant. Yes.
There you go. The barking could mean something. And so it's sending a message to you.
Sending them talking out, speaking out of turn and all that. Just be patient with people. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So even as we get into today's conversation, you are a political commentator, but you also don't live in Kenya, at least not for most of the time. So you are a member of the diaspora in one way or another, are you not?
Yes.
Okay. There seems to be a view, and let's just go into, first of all, folks who live in the diaspora have left Kenya for one reason or another, whether it is greener pastures, whether it is work, whether it is education, by relationship, marriage, went with a spouse, all sorts of things. But there's still a thought that's held for your mother country, and being able to hear the different views that have been going around over the last, couple of years, even looking at this, 2.5 year administration. Give us an overview of what diaspora thinking for Kenya is at the moment.
Okay, I could also just make a small correction. I actually ran for Senate, Muranga. I ran for Senate and I came 4th out of 7. So I also have my ear on the ground. I'm more like a political junkie, so I know what's going on here. But being out there, I've lived in Germany as well as the US. So I can say I have seen changes over time. I was there when we had Kibaki as the president. I was also there when we had Uhuru. And now, of course, we have these 2.5 years. So we're able to see the trends and what has changed and how our families feel and what is going on. But most of us, we may be far away, but we do follow the politics because we have our families here. We've got vested interest.
And so what do you follow? From what you follow, rather, what do you see?
Well, I could compare things like when we're out there in the diaspora, things like the boundaries that we have are very protected out there. So when we hear that our president has opened the boundaries to anybody from any corner of the world can come here, it's a problem because we know what that means. When people come in, we don't know the exact identification, what they're doing, how long they'll stay, what they'll do when they're here, and how they're going to probably compete directly with us. Other countries out there protect themselves so hard that we feel disadvantaged when we see that our country doesn't understand that, and we're worried about that. And then other things I could say, we also follow the politics of abductions because we also have family here. It's very, very concerning, very, very concerning how you can grab people off the street, hold them beyond 24 hours, no legal representation. They turn up dead, and we know who is doing it. It's probably the government, because we observe, we also follow the stories. So such things concern us when we're out there from the overview. We also follow the corruption when we see the amount of money that we lose through corruption in such a poor country where people don't find jobs but ghosts get paid. That's really a concern for us. And then when we are called every time, we've seen the calls are increasing for help. So when you see the remittances go up, that is help we're giving, besides the investments that we do.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That, because we've been given the numbers over years, and it's in the billions that come into the country every year. And it's even actually counted as a factor towards economic stability in the country, that there's a huge diaspora contribution. But that you say that, yes, when you see the remittances going up, it's not necessarily that folks are doing wonderfully well in terms of the business arena, but that folks on this other end of the pond are asking for help because things here are not looking so good. So the numbers go up because people are
Yes, there's a
distressed.
connection between the governance. When things are a bit better, we can see we don't get many calls. But before, we were getting calls from our relatives who are pretty suffering. But then now we're getting the middle class. Middle class are calling us. People are in problems. So when I see that continue, we see, then we want to travel here, then you disturb us at the airport, you don't respect our remittances. That concerns us. Well, our remittances are now up to, they overtake the coffee, the tea, we're number 2, besides the direct foreign investment. Then we come to the airport. Many people have stopped coming, by the way, and we feel mistreated at the airport when you pull up our things and want to tax us again. That is, we feel disrespected. Some diasporas in other countries actually get a red carpet, because what they do, they have a straight line. You're diaspora, you have a line for yourself, something like that.
You know, the thing about a country like ours is the moving parts are many, and they keep moving.
Yes.
And if you're looking at it from the position of a citizen, let me talk about myself. Most of the time, I'm actually not sure about the direction that things are moving in. And I say I'm not sure because I may think this is what is happening, but as I look close, I realize what I think is happening may not be what is happening. For instance, at what point do I look at this particular government and place the entire blame of what I see on them? On what do I look at the continuum of government and ask some of these problems emanated before this particular president? And if I were to become a history student, then I would say, but this problem began even before this other one. Mm-hmm. So am I to judge this leadership by how they're handling what they found? Am I judging this leadership by what it is they said they would do? Am I judging this leadership by the manner in which the executive, that is, they relate to the other two arms of government? My confusion. And one would assume that confusion clears up over time, but in my mind it doesn't.
Well, I can say, I don't know why you're calling it leadership. It's no longer leadership, the way we're saying.
Yeah. Oh, it is actually.
Some form of leadership. Okay, I feel like the democracy here has been hacked over time. I guess globally, even the globe, people are becoming more authoritarian. But as we have a special angle of tribalism and corruption and impunity, so many things are combined that from out there, we're seeing our country crashing to a halt.
But this problem that we have here, you see, the question I'm asking myself is this the first time we're seeing them? That one I have clarity. It is not. And why is this particular one special?
Because we're feeling it. When you see a 6-year-old saying the president needs to go, when you talk to anybody, people call us, it's almost like that's a conversation now. I can say it's up to almost 90% the way we feel it.
Wow. So your difference is, to pick up from City's question, is not that Kenya has strayed from the path it's been on. It's that it's gone deeper in. Yes. Now, let's talk solutions. I think we've sat many times and pinpointed the issues of corruption, tribalism, etc., etc. From a diaspora perspective, and indeed as a Kenyan, as someone who's run for office, what should we do? Because that's a thing that really turns my stomach. What should we do? What should be done? Because, for example, when you talk about phone calls, we get phone calls about healthcare, for example. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, universal healthcare sounds like a good solution because I'm tired of being called and told there is flu here, there is malaria here, you need to fix. But then when we put in the universal healthcare, there's still a gap. So what is the solution? I
think the solution probably can really help is to look for the countries that have done the best practices. Mm-hmm. And I see the people, the guests who come here, they like to quote Singapore. What they did in Singapore was what you call corporate, the corporate model. And that's what Rwanda also took. That's what the UEA also took. Where you run the country on meritocracy, you interview the people, it's what they can do. You look at their history, what can they do? So the president is the CEO of this company, and we are the board of governors, the members of the board, we the citizens. Mm-hmm. Then you move down to the CSs. We should have experts there, not people being put there because of their tribe, what they can do, how much they gave to the campaign. And then we move on to, then we have the MPs. They should also be members of parliament who articulate, who are able to represent the people on matters that need to be done for the country. It's very crucial. The MPs are very crucial. But when we put there people who are not able to contribute to the debate, who are pocketed in the bathrooms, because we hear they're given money in the bathroom. Then we move on to the Senate. We find that everybody has been compromised. Now it's the season to compromise the judges, the Supreme Court and all. We're observing from out there, and we are concerned. I think if we move to that model, we'll be able to do performance-based interrogations. How is our president doing? Short-term, long-term, and that kind of a thing. And also tying our strategic plan for the country to only 5 years, we had the 2030 vision. If you look at those 3 countries I mentioned, some are up to 2050. But as we attach 5 years, those 5 years, and then we try to put something popular, we try to change it completely so we can own that legacy, and we mess up. Look at your shisha. Somebody comes and see a functioning NHIF, changes it. Look at your 844, they change it to something else we can't describe. All that because they just want to change things to have their legacy. So we are all these things, when we look at them, we need to change a model that can work. We can't have, I think you have 390 members of parliament, 67 senators, and then we have all these people working in government still using paper. We need to look for ways to digitalize everything and move to a different economy where we are headed.
You'd be amazed at how digitalized we are. Do you know that our entire judiciary is actually digitalized fully? We are quite digitalized. But the point you make is a valid one. The point about the, not changes, the complete overhaul of systems that we have, it's something that causes concern because it's presented as a solution, and when it is presented, what you see is very many problems. And you still wait for the solutions, but I guess we'll still keep waiting. Let me ask the question I want to ask. When we look at our country, sometimes it is good to be away because you have the benefit of comparison that we don't. Would you say there's hope?
There's hope if you get the right people in place. But like I'm saying, we need to change the model because we're going into the big future out there. But the way we are doing things based on our 44 tribes, grouping together so that we can get in. I think the current president has made it very rosy that you go there and you can really make money. You have your hands on all the resources of this country, particularly the budget is in your pocket. So now people are gathering together. We're seeing them from an overview. We can see all these people teaming up. What are they teaming up for? To get to the resources too. People are doing crazy things, and we're seeing the borders are open. No, we're told visas are open, anybody can come in. And we're told, we don't need to vet them to get their IDs. Can you imagine that?
But is that for everybody?
Is scary.
But no, wait a moment. But the visa, is that for everybody?
The open visa thing, we did it for Africa.
South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the opening of the borders for everybody?
Well, the opening of the borders, I think she's referring to the ID issue.
Of the president recently announced in the
proclaimed
Northeastern
recently.
tour.
Yeah, it's not even
That we don't
recently,
need
it's
to vet.
yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yes. That we don't need to vet people getting IDs. But what I'm saying is the order of events. When you leave it to the rest of Africa, that means we can have the Sudan and then the immediate neighbors. They had a chance to come in.
But they do come in.
But if we don't regulate it, that's what I'm saying. Out there as diaspora, we really understand what that means. We're checked from facial recognition, eyes, to get in. You come out, they know everything you've done. But these people are coming in, we don't know. And I'm talking like Trump. They're coming in, they're doing this.
We can...
but bear in mind that Somalia, is Somalia part of this African community?
No.
No, but the other countries and the people around us, one of the things that this African community guarantees is free movement. Remember, there are countries that we no longer need a passport to go with. You just need your ID to go to.
Free movement, but not free voting.
Yes, you
can't vote
would
in our
know. That is why I brought it up, so that you can explain it.
Well, it's technically, they do say that you can go to Tanzania, Uganda, etc. with your ID, but no, you will need either a temporary passport or a passport, and they will still ask you, why are you coming into Tanzania? In fact, sometimes there's a special queue for Kenyans going into Tanzania, for example.
Let's flip it.
Yeah.
Tanzanians and Ugandans coming into Kenya, are they treated the same, or do they just walk in?
Well, it's easier to come into Kenya. That's a fact. There's less questions, there's easier access, which I personally support, and I'll tell you why. One, I'm a Pan-Africanist, but two, we need to really make business between the East African countries, and indeed, Africa be as easy as possible. In fact, many years I worked, many months I worked in Ghana, and it was very easy to get to Ghana, and it's the reason why it's a darling to many places. But there's also always the need to have a process to make sure that it is not Osama bin Laden who's coming into your country.
But yeah, true. And also, I agree what you're saying about the free movement. That is fine. You can move across the borders for the trade. Even in Europe, they move across borders to other countries. But you're given limited time. We need to know what business you're coming to do. And then you expire, you have to get out, come back in. But it seems you can come in. And then when we say corruption corrupts everything and everywhere, it's not just the milk you drink that you don't have a guarantee. It's milk. But people can come to this country, can get an ID, can get a passport because of corruption. So, and that doesn't happen other than the diaspora. So we feel very concerned that yes, there's free movement, but you cannot register to vote. Get ideas to register to vote, and then we say, oh, we made an error in the census. These people should be more, this one should be less. We feel like people are preparing to rig the election.
Okay, let me ask a question.
I'm sorry if I'm punching too.
Oh, no.
Punch a little
This
harder.
is the situation.
Feel very free. Speak your mind.
Yes.
You want me to speak my mind?
Yes.
Will I be abducted?
Well, that isn't within our purview. We certainly won't abduct you.
Yes. For the only abduction we do is 1 hour at a time, and we abduct you via a proverb.
Yes, exactly.
So go ahead.
You see, the question I'm asking is, at what point in our history were our borders not porous? When? In the history of this country? Because I talk about porous borders. When were our borders not porous?
City, your question is double-edged in the sense that the porosity of our borders and the identification of foreigners within our borders are two different issues.
Correct.
Yes. When people come into the country illegally, it is another legal issue to deal with. When people, for example, let me talk about Busia, for example. If a Ugandan from Busia is able to get an Kenyan ID simply because there's not vetting, those are two different issues. They may seem similar, but in the eyes of the law, they are very different, because if I am Ugandan and I'm able to get a Ugandan ID and then I come get a Kenyan ID, I've got dual citizenship. There are many other legal implications. So it may seem like the same conversation, but it's not.
To you, it doesn't. But in all honesty, is it really a different conversation?
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is. It is significantly different, and it is significantly different. I'm acting like I'm a guest, but it's significantly different because I'll let you answer. Because when you get an ID, you can vote, for example. You can open a bank account in certain situations. While if you come in illegally, you can't do those things. But I am not the guest.
Yes, you can come to trade, identify yourself as from Uganda, and then you come in, you do your trade, and you get out. But now we don't have a proper way. These people, they're coming in, and then they can stay longer. Then they say, oh, I can even get an ID. I can be. That is not normal.
In this region, we house some of the biggest refugee camps. And Kenyans don't live in those refugee camps. It's our neighbors and people who come probably from this continent. And those numbers are not actually decreasing. The very thing that we seem to be saying we want to protect ourselves against people coming in and causing instability, these people come in because of the complete opposite, because they feel this country is stable.
Well, I mean, and beyond that, feeling that it's stable, then the president has gone ahead and said, well, then, you know what? It's all right. You can actually come in, whether you felt it was stable or not.
Yes.
If you're presented with an opportunity. Yes. And is that a fear that we're talking about now? Yeah. Yesterday, the president at the border said, you know what? It is all right. We're going to remove the vetting cap. Come in, get an ID. Now, his intent, from what you're seeing, it may be totally different.
Yes.
However, why is that a scary thought to embrace?
Because now, when somebody has an ID, they can go to Kenyatta Market, they can open a business to sew clothes and compete directly with the people who do there. They can take up jobs, they can open a shop, and that kind of thing. We don't have systems in place that you're coming in to do some trading and then you're leaving. But you can't come, then get an ID and stay here. We don't know how much our country can hold. Like I'm seeing that it's getting more crowded, and how much it can support all this. But it's not regulated. We also don't know who's coming in. We need to have femicides where people are chopped up. We're seeing things we've never seen before. Yeah.
We're going to take a break in a bit, but let me ask you this, Comfort, is that a lot of the Kenyans who live in the diaspora live in societies where governance then takes on a citizen-centric approach, whereby citizens are involved in the government down to the very lowest level.
Yes.
That you can talk to your council, chair, you can talk to you can walk into the office and say, hey, this is not going the way in which we had been told that it was going to go. You have regular weekly sometimes ward meetings where you're down to, because the equivalent of an MCA is talking to the neighborhood about plans and achievements and things like that. This is reality.
That's reality.
Why do we see that can't happen on this side?
Yeah, I feel 5 years is too long for somebody to play around for years. The last year they start campaigning and take it. We should have that. If we could amend the constitution, we should have a midterm where we actually check how our MP did and how, or even have a platform where we are communicating directly. We're seeing what they're doing with their money, what they did today, because we have that in the diaspora. We know exactly what is planned for the small region you're in and wherever you are. Some transparency, some accountability, some feedback. We give them feedback what they're doing, where they need to correct. We don't have that. Here, in fact, I think the MPs are busy going for meetings everywhere. The president is, wherever there's action. They hardly go back home now because of political issues. There's a lot going on, and people are not feeling represented here. And it's going to take 5 years.
It's going to take 5 years to do that and get that done. All right. We're having a conversation this hour, and Comfort Mwangi is our guest this hour. And we're talking about, so Kenyans who live in the diaspora and what they feel about the happenings within the borders, and questions in terms of what you can do about it. If there's something that you see that makes you uncomfortable, coming together in unity, whether it's in diaspora or within the country, how will we go about that? Let me remind you that if you run a business and you're thinking about the ways in which you can make payments happen seamlessly, Verto FX is the platform that you want to use. Running a business in Kenya, especially when you're working across borders, can be a real headache, isn't it? Slow payments, high fees, banks limiting how much you can move, and constantly worrying about exchange rates. Well, it can feel like you're, losing money. It can feel as though every time you make a transaction, something goes out to the bank. Well, take Verto FX, for example. You can get into a system where you're making international payments across 190 different countries in 49 different currencies, and your downtime in terms of your lead time in terms of making these payments is very quick. There are no hidden charges and no exorbitant charges either. And it's across countries in a time that will actually wow you. You have the added piece of knowing that your transactions are secure. You want to know how you can make these payments business to business? Log on to www.vertofx.com and sign up now.
This is the Situation Room, the only one. When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra.
This is Keep Things Moving, folks. Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Noru Mwangi is our guest this hour at 21 minutes to 9 o'clock. And looking at conversations around, or rather involving ourselves in conversations around the Kenyan diaspora and what the feeling is about what's going on in the country. And we've talked about certain things. And, a lot of times we lament about things that are happening, and we're trying to go towards a solution-oriented thinking or solution-oriented conversation, that I can look at something and I can hear the dog barking, but am I actually going to go and look for what is causing the problem and how can I fix it? If there's a hole in the fence and the dog is barking because somebody's trying to stick their foot in it, am I going to go fix the hole? Well, likely, because I've heard the dog bark. So the dogs are barking, right? And so what are alternatives then for this governance that we see that may have an issue here or there? What are we saying could be possible solutions?
I think one of the solutions, like I said, was to downsize. And then, like in another channel, I talked about Texas being the size of Kenya, and it's run by only one governor, and these are 31 million people, one governor. He does not take the cars home. He has 2 cars only, official cars. He drives to work with his car. This is somebody governing 31 million people, just 20 million more than our president.
Just a second.
We have overrepresentation here.
So he drives his own vehicle to
Yes,
work,
yes.
and then on official duties during the day, he uses the office vehicle.
Correct.
When he's done with that,
Yes.
he leaves it at the office and then
Yes.
takes his car back home.
And there's only one governor house, not 12 state houses. State lodges being renovated all the time. Helicopters being bought. SUVs going to open boreholes or something in that direction. And then you have all those MPs, all those senators. Then we have police. Then we still have the chiefs, assistant chiefs. So you need to pay all those people. We are over-supervisors, individuals here in Kenya. And we are paying them out of our pocket. Yet people cannot feed themselves. So I feel that that kind of governance is not working. And I also talked about how the Europeans, the Wazungus took care of this issue. They drew boundaries. They fought and fought and fought. And said, hey, you speak Spanish. We're drawing the line up to here. Italy is there. Greece is there. And so on.
Well, they may have done it in Europe, but they did a pretty shoddy job in Africa.
Yeah, they did it on purpose so that you can never unite. So you see, you have people in Ethiopia who are your relatives or in Uganda. And then when one area fought too much, Yugoslavia, they all went in and helped them split. Serbia, and, they helped them out there. And then even in the U.S., we have the red states and the blue states. We have that. But now here we're broken down to counties, where you have Aluya, Giriama. Everybody has their little government. So the small tribes, what do? I feel so sad when you just talk, oh, now it's Mulembe, they've got the numbers. Oh, let's combine with that one. Let's open up. Let's give this one's ID. We need all these numbers. That kind of mindset will not take us to the year 2030 and so on. We're on the wrong trajectory. That's what I'm saying.
Consider for a second that the countries you refer to had the processes that they went through to get to where they are.
Yeah.
And that what you're describing is the process we are going through
Yes.
to get to where we want to go. Because the idea of who comprises or what constitutes a leader on this continent is very different from the countries that you refer to. And the way in which we relate to our leadership, I'm referring to political here, is very different from the way the people in the West. My question, are you then suggesting that we should relate to our leaders the way people in the West relate to their leaders?
Yeah, the world has opened up. People are moving. People are seeing real time what's happening here. I cannot be in Europe and not be grabbed off the street and found dead with my hands tied up and my lungs full of water, drowning. And people make noise and it still continues. We're seeing it. And those people are also so the governance has to reflect. It's becoming a small village. And there's people now will say, I can't go to that country, that this happens there. We are opening up and we're starting to question. We have our Gen Zs too in the diaspora. And they're communicating. Now they're getting aware. And they're seeing, our mother country, that kind of a thing. Yes, I think we need to reflect what is happening in the world. We can't still have chiefs over here running the country in tribal movements where people are combining to take the resources that we are all contributing as a country. We're all putting the money into that pot. But then we have 2, 3, 4 major tribes. They'll come together. They'll go in. They'll put in all their people in parastatals, all the jobs and everything. Put all the resources to fix the roads in those areas. That's how we see it. And that cannot continue. We would like to change the model to a corporate business. You can be fired. You can go to jail. That doesn't happen.
If you're talking about an ideal situation, what you say makes sense. But even people in these so-called big tribes, when you talk to them, that development you're speaking of, they'll tell you they have not seen it. If you're talking about people, the difference is places that have never seen roads that we refer to as good roads. And some will tell you, even these roads that you say that we have in our country, and yet we're a big community, we don't actually see them. But you see, what I find strange, though, is sometimes we heap, and in this country we do that a great deal, we heap blame on the executive for seeking to control and probably controlling the other 2 arms of government. How is it their fault exactly?
Well, we have devolution. We have devolution, and the money that was going to the devolved counties.
Yes.
The executive went and chopped like 38 billion with the support of the senators. They all raised their hand, just take a chunk. Then they're complaining that they can't pay the debts and all that stuff. It is so corrupt. The whole thing is corrupt. It's Africanized, maybe if you want to say that. I don't know what it is.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
It's something that is not sustainable.
Comfort, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. The executive, if you now live in America, you see the executive that mirrors our own executives here are in power. Most executives across the world pretend that they are not that way inclined. And the so-called founding fathers of those nations understood what could happen if somebody doesn't have checks and balances. That's why they brought about constitutions and checks and balances, and even this idea of arms of government, for that very, very purpose. The independence is given to these arms of government through the Constitution. It's there, it's yours.
Yes.
You can do it as you see fit. Now, when you sell it down the tube, or when you decide that you will allow someone to influence it, if we're to point fingers, who should you point a finger at?
Well, look at when we're doing elections there's a limit you can give somebody
in this country.
No, I'm saying now, I'm telling you that
Yes.
these are things we need to adopt. Even when Mr. Trump, President Trump, our president, when he came in, he has to stop all his businesses, put them aside. He can't do business.
So we're told.
But we have, we don't have it. We have our president who is almost even running hair salons in that. He's in the hotel business, he's in the catering, he's in the insurance, he's all that. When does he have time to run the country?
Everybody is in those businesses.
Yes, but
there is no president in this country who has not run.
We only have one president in this country. I'm just saying that if we have democracy, we have the check and balances you're talking about.
Yes.
Remove the money, focus on the work, because you cannot do that. You cannot run a country at the same time. It's a conflict of interest. That's why they're going to put people who will work with you for the tenders, people who do this, move around for you. It's a mess.
The point you make is a valid one. But let me perhaps simplify what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that what you're saying is true. And the checks and balances should be there. And they were there, even when it comes to election spending. When the Uhuru government came in, that is one of the first things they got rid of. It was there. We had, the Constitution took care of many of these things.
Yep.
It was gotten rid of. We had an ethics and morality section of our Constitution that was, if applied, guaranteed the very things you're saying. You muck around with funds you're dealt with. That same government of Uhuru made sure that it was so watered down, you can hardly do anything with it. And any attempt you make. Now, this government seems to just be taking advantage of what already exists and probably adding a little bit of their own. I am not saying that these things are good. I am saying we have a constitution that has given citizens the ability to elect their leaders.
Correct.
We have a constitution that has allowed us to have 3 arms of government which are independent. The constitution has given us independent institutions that are supposed to bring about a check and balance. Now, yet we have a situation where the executive still reigns supreme. I'm asking the question, why is the executive being blamed?
You know, it's a good question. Executives across the world want to influence and overreach.
Dominate.
Yes. That is the nature of executive power. And I think what we're talking about here is that the Kenyan people, diaspora or not, are saying that we, the people, which is the most important part of any constitution, is we, the people, are sovereign, and we are saying certain things that are not kosher for us. And the question we must really ask, and this is the question I'm going to ask, is number one, how can we empower the people, right? And I'm talking about the Gen Zs, the young people. I'm talking about the older people, non-retirees like City. Right?
I hear you.
Then how can we bridge this gap? I think that's what I would like to hear. How do you bridge this gap? Because there's so much complaining, there's so much pain. How do you bridge the gap?
Yeah, first of all, I'm an educator. I'm into technology. I've been to MIT for AI, and AI might be the solution, not the problem.
How so?
And I'm going to go into that. But as you're talking about the Constitution from 2010, we have the beauty of learning all these things that we've learned in the last 10 years to now 13 years from this Constitution. We have amendments. Now is when we need to sit back and all this rot and interrogate how we got here. We say, okay, now we need to have the 2-term, midterms, that kind of a thing. We need to remove money when you're coming into government to govern. We need to have you reach a certain academic level. We need to background check what you can do. Those are things we can do when we now sit down and do the amendments to this Constitution. Now, going back, being an educator, and I've seen the situation here about the jobs and the youth, who are almost 70%. And they're all very tech savvy because I know how they're able to manipulate AI and drive the president and other people crazy. But we should not fear AI because it's going to first take away a lot of jobs. The jobs we don't have are going to go, but it's going to change the form. It's going to come back in a different form. Just the way we didn't have combined harvesters, but we had people harvesting, but it didn't become a problem. So I saw one of your guests here talking about agriculture and sending 1.5 million goats to the UEA. We have, maybe you saw it, that the president signed 200,000 acres off and gave to the UEA.
The UAE.
Yeah, UEE. UAE.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Give.
Yeah, the Gulana.
Gulana Kulalu.
It happened.
What do you mean gave?
Listed for 99 years. Okay. And I was saying that there is now that the trade balance is crazy because the UAE, they give us petroleum, they give us, that's what we get from them. But we send so many goats like you had, food and all that. Now, if we give them the 99,000, the 200,000 acres for 99 years, they'll come and take over agriculture sector.
Surely
it will be gone.
The agricultural potential of Kenya is slightly more than 200,000
You're
acres.
such an optimist. I'm saying, so you're okay with 200,000 acres going to the people who we send our product?
Don't we have to look at it in totality, though, in terms of that agreement that was made between Kenya and the UAE, in the sense that the trade gates essentially would be opened, that if they were going to use that... I was going to call it a parcel of land, but maybe 200,000 acres, a little bit more than a parcel, right? But that was what best practice was going to be used to then adopt for Kenya after some time.
To give it perspective, it's 200,000 acres being leased at $800 million by Al Dahra or something like that from the UAE. And it's expected to bolster Kenya's food security.
Exactly.
It's expected to have a positive impact.
This is what
At the same time, there's supposed to be a dam being built.
Yeah.
So on the surface, it looks like a good thing for Kenya.
It is all part of the whole Kenya UAE deal.
I beg to differ because this is our land. We have youth here who don't have a job, but we're bringing other people here to farm on our land and then sell it to us, and then we're very happy about that because we eat the food. That thinking is done that is going to mess us up. I was going back to the AI. If the youth could understand that agriculture could be a solution, make it, sexy, make it attractive, there are lots of billions to be earned there. And using technology, using the drones to map up the areas, the fertilizer, the Internet of Things,
What
and
makes
so
you think
on.
the youth are interested in agriculture?
Why? Because they've not been presented properly. They're all looking for jobs. They want paper job to work in an office.
By the time you've gone to school and you've acquired even...
You are captured completely by the Mzungu.
The very basics of education. Very many Kenyans have land. It may be small, but they have land. The bulk of people who are farmers in this country are what you call subsistence farmers. And the age group of people who used to farm, people my age, we are a dying species, okay? We will soon be extinct. The majority whom we speak about, the youth, if in their numbers, they were interested in farming. This farming we refer to as, what name did I give it?
Subsistence.
Yes. One could see a great deal because many of them actually have the knowledge. I don't see that big an interest in young people in farming in the country.
Then we make them get interested. Let me talk about Tanzania, the president there.
Yes.
Magufuli began that program for the youth, betterment of the youth. It's actually based on agriculture. It's providing almost 10 million jobs for the youth. These are the youth. I think it's good to have a woman as a president who think that way. So what Tanzania did was, listen, hold on.
We've heard you.
What Tanzania did was, what she did now is that they provided 700,000 acres from the government, gave the youth pieces, provided the seeds, provided the funding, the agriculture. And now these youth are able to now not only sell the food back to the government, make money, solve the what do you call the food shortage in Tanzania.
It's called food security.
Food security. But then now, those youth can't even marry. Here, the youth they can't even marry. They can have a home. They have an income, 10 million from the soil we have there. What are we doing here in Kenya? We're leasing so that people can come and work on it, and then they can
take the money back out of the country.
If I take the view,
and then they just keep looking for a paper job.
If I take the view that your views are somewhat representative of people in the diaspora, let me ask a direct question. The diaspora remittance places us fifth on this continent when it comes to the countries that actually remit money back, which means a great deal of money. Are people in the diaspora willing to support a president of their choice to vie for an election year? Someone who meets the qualities that...
Rally around a particular candidate, for example.
People who, we are told by diaspora, the sort of things we need to have, the people we need to have. Is it possible for them to support? Because all this money coming in, can they support a candidate, somebody who represents these values that they speak of?
The money coming in is not that we put it all together and say, oh, now we've got the 80 billion that we put it together. No, it is me sending money for your toothache, somebody sending money for unga. It's not there. But the investments that we have, as investors, we're also going to pull out because of taxes, the same reasons the other investors are taking off from. So that remittances may shrink if we continue having this governance. But the other one of somebody calling, I need unga, I need school fees, I need to go to the hospital because of shisha not working.
I see the opposite happening.
That one will remain
with
there.
The current president you guys have in the States, you're going to come back.
She's not in the Gaza Strip. So.
That one is going to clean it
Or
out.
Greenland.
Or Greenland.
Or Canada.
The Gulf of Kenya. It's going to be a nice 4 years.
Do you see that, though? Because that's a thing. Again, if we're going to point, really quickly in the direction of, solution-oriented conversations that I think need to take root and need to be the star of anything that we do moving forward. And that is rooted in the people who essentially will lead.
Yes.
There needs to be unity around then that kind of person or those persons. How will that happen? And we have to be asking that kind of question.
Because it's down to money. I ran for office and know money. It was very difficult. You can hardly talk. They just want money. Money. So if you want to get many people, then you start stealing more money so you can give it to them the next round. That's how it happened. Because they want crazy money. But we need to change that conversation. Like I'm saying, if we take the best practices from those countries, Rwanda, Singapore, and UAE here, and run it as a corporation, we'll be busy doing our other businesses there with a functioning government. But now we have education, nobody's focusing, we don't have experts. Our CSs are not experts in what they're doing. They're just not. They're just the right tribe. They're not experts.
Well, maybe they're experts in that.
They really are not.
Then there are things that we need to...
Somebody, the Minister of Agriculture, they've never even planted one seed in the ground.
How do you know?
I'm just... How do I know? Because actually, I'm a political nerd. I check. If you made the Minister of Health, there's the former Minister of Health did an online something, I don't know, from Turkey, maybe a printout of a certificate. I don't know where they get them.
Hey, my good friend Mutaikagwe, how many seeds have you planted?
All
I'm calling
right.
to find out.
Well, I mean, these are the conversations that we should have. Bring up some of these. Absolutely. Comfort Munoru Mwangi, a political commentator, has been our guest this hour. Just looking at what the thoughts from around are and how we should actually bring out some of these conversations. Thank you for being here this morning. Good morning. Conversations continue with Mr. President after this. It's 9 a.m.